If you want to know what tank to play in Mist of Pandaria in under 5 to 6 minutes, we'll see how short I can actually get it, I'm going to give you my top reasons why you should consider my top 3 tanks as a choice for you in Mist of Pandaria. The next few videos I'm going to be talking about the top 3 healers, top 3 range DPS, and top 3 melee DPS, and trying to break all of them down in as close to 5 minutes as possible. So firstly, what are my top 3 tanks? Those would be Blood Death Knight, Brewmaster Monk, and Protection Warrior. Do remember as well, this is all about the first tier of raiding. All of the classes will change as they scale differently with stats throughout the expansion. We're focusing purely on the opening tier. Starting with a Blood Death Knight first. They've been the go-to main tank all through Cataclysm, and I don't see that changing for Mist of Pandaria. They put out absolutely amazing single target damage. They bring the option of some really powerful raid cooldowns with things like Anti-Magic Zone that just comes from a talent, or even Gore Fiend's Grasp, which is basically a mass grip to be able to get all of the adds into one place. Being able to completely remove the cooldown of Outbreak with a glyph, but it just makes it cost runic power instead, makes getting diseases on new targets an absolute breeze. And then with the ability to be able to Blood Boil to actually spread these diseases instead of using Pestilence, feels absolutely fantastic. Getting your pet out that actually does significant damage now and being able to get really big self-heals on you without actually sacrificing the pet is another really huge personal cooldown, because now Death Pact, instead of sacrificing the pet, it just sacrifices 50% of its max health and gives you 50% of your max health. In a podcast recently with Riani, he was particularly excited about the 1 second global cooldown that they also get, which I'd have to mention because he mentioned it about 6,000 times. You even get an execute ability now in the form of Soul Reaper, where you do a decent amount of damage, and then after 5 seconds, if the target's still alive and below 35% health, it then does a truckload of damage. But if the enemy dies, you get 50% haste. So just a really, really nice execute ability. But overall, I still see the Blood Death Knight being the go-to main tank, with the off-tank being one of the second choices, which was between Brewmaster Monk and Protection Warrior. So let's start with Brewmaster Monk. If you want a tank on a super mobile class that actually feels like it's more of a DPS than a tank, and actually be ridiculously strong, then Brewmaster's probably for you. Having a huge absorb called Guard that you can use every 30 seconds, which not only does it guard you for a massive amount of damage, it also then increases self-healing on you whilst it's up. A statue that you can keep down that applies mini guards to the raid as well, so not only are you keeping absorbs on yourself, you're also helping with the raid healing. Having abilities like Clash that almost acts like a charge, Roll to be able to roll around all over the place, Tiger's Lust on a 30-second cooldown to be able to remove all immobilizing effects on you and increase your movement speed by 70%. Extremely impactful talent choices that you will adjust on a fight-by-fight basis. Hands down the most powerful challenge mode tank, to the point where sometimes you don't even need a healer, and you just feel like you're spinning lots of plates, very much like you would be if you was a DPS, because you're using blackout kicks to maintain a shuffle buff, which gives you 20% parry and increases your stagger amount, and stagger is a system completely unique to Brewmasters. Stagger causes 80% of damage taken from physical attacks to be taken immediately, and then the remaining 20% to be divided over 10 seconds. Stagger can be increased in many ways, like mastery or even passives, and you can completely cleanse that additional dot with Purifying Brew. I see Brewmaster Monk in MoP being a go-to off-tank or even main tank, and it's just a lot of fun to play. And finally, the Protection Warrior. Now, the Prot Warrior over the years has had its ups and downs, and it's definitely flying high in Mist of Pandaria. It will be absolutely amazing as both a main tank or an off-tank, and bring some really, did I say really enough? Good buffs and debuffs. The way you build and generate rage has now changed, so instead you do have builders and spenders, with abilities like Shield Slam granting rage, and then using that rage on a new ability called Shield Barrier. Shield Barrier is your way of absorbing damage, so you raise your shield, absorbing X amount of damage for the next 6 seconds. This will consume up to 60 rage, but only cost 20 rage to use initially, and the more rage you use and the more attack power you have increases the amount absorbed. So on the basis of our vengeance changes in Mr. Pandaria, where it's capped to your maximum health, you can get a lot of attack power and do a lot of absorbs. But the only decision you're having to make when it comes to spenders is using Shield Barrier to be able to absorb damage, Shield Block to give you 100% block chance. This costs 60 rage, has 2 charges on a 9-second recharge, or using excess rage for more damage on things like Heroic Strike and Cleave. You'll be able to get Vigilance, which is on a 2-minute cooldown, and it's a 30% damage reduction buff that you can put on anybody. And Safeguard is incredible as well, where it's only a 20% damage reduction for 6 seconds, but it's only on a 30-second cooldown. Even as a protection warrior, you're going to bring Skull Banner, which is on a 3-minute cooldown. This lasts 10 seconds and absolutely should be used at high moments of burst damage during things like Bloodlust. For anyone within 30 yards of Demoralizing Banner, they're going to deal 10% damage less, which basically means your raid is going to be taking 10% less damage, and just tons more utility, even like Disrupting Shout being able to do an AoE interrupt. The Prot Warrior can put out insane AoE and cleave damage, and obviously very high single target damage as well. And if you're wondering when I'm talking about all of these tanks why I'm obsessing over damage, tanks in Mist of Pandaria have the ability to put out absolutely amazing damage while still maintaining high self-heals and high survivability. Because most classes heals and absorbs scale with attack power as tanks, you get really high vengeance and you can almost just sustain yourself. So outside of sustaining your own health pool, you should be putting out as much damage as physically possible. This is why Blood DK, Brewmaster and Prot Warrior have made my top 3, because Blood DK will be doing insane single target, Brewmaster will be doing insane AoE, and Prot Warrior is kind of a nice mix of both. And all 3 of them have incredible survivability in terms of self-healing and bring really good stuff to the raid. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. There are much more deep dive videos into all of these classes, so just go check them out on the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.